Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our January Community Coffee Hour, our very first coffee hour of 2023. We're so excited to have you all join us. We have a really exciting coffee hour lined up for you today on marketing, social media, and branding for mentoring programs. We have two awesome guest speakers with us, and they will be introducing themselves shortly, Nick Williams and Jacqueline Woodbridge. So to get us kicked off here, we would love to know who is with us today. So if you would like to put your name and pronouns, what mentoring program or organization that you're with, and your role, and anything else that you feel is pertinent to the conversation today, please do feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we are Mentor Virginia. We are here to foster quality mentoring relationships that empower, elevate, and encourage young people. So we are really here to support mentoring programs around the state of Virginia, and we do that through a variety of services. We provide training to mentors and mentees. We have an AmeriCorps Vista program that helps programs build their capacity. We have a no-cost consulting program that can help mentoring programs build or enhance the work that they're doing. And we have a national quality mentoring system that allows programs to see how well they're doing in their program in terms of alignment with national best practice standards. So we have an amazing team that helps do this work. So we have Pamela Johnson, our Youth Impact Coordinator, Cindy Montalvo, our AmeriCorps Vista Program Supervisor, Virginia Patterson's our Executive Director, Emma Rush is our Marketing and Communications Coordinator, Cindy Spencer Helms is our Training and DEI Manager, and then I am Sarah Wilkinson, the Director of Programs. And I'm not going to go over all of our lovely, amazing consultants that we also have who help us do all this work. You can see them on our screen. We have a team of 10 right now, and they are all incredibly talented experts in the field who help us actualize the work that we do with mentoring programs. So as you're thinking about what brought you to this meeting today, we would love for you to kind of keep in mind what questions you have. There will be time toward the end of this meeting for an open Q&A with our guest speakers, and both of them have a wealth of knowledge around these topics. So if you have questions and they don't get answered during the kind of panel portion of today, please keep those questions, drop them in the chat, however you want to be able to ask those, and we will make sure that we get some answers. And with that, I'm going to pass things over to Tamise, and we will hear introductions from our guest speakers.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be with you and Happy New Year. I'm Tamise Spencer Helms. I'm the DEI and Training Manager here with Mentor Virginia. And I'm going to have Nick and Jacqueline go ahead and introduce themselves. I'm going to go in order of what's on my screen. So Jacqueline, why don't you go first?
Thank you, Tamise. My name is Jacqueline Woodbridge. I am the Editorial Communications and Media Relations Manager for the City of Alexandria. Long title basically means that I help publicize the brand of the city, develop the brand of the city, and write everything for the city with my team. Previously, I have nearly a decade of experience in political and governmental communications. So I'm really excited to be here, learn from y'all, and just get this conversation going.
Thank you. We're glad to have you. Nick.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Nick Williams. I'm the Assistant Director of Student Engagement in VCU School of Business, as well as the Director of the VCU Business Mentoring Program. I am also an adjunct professor at VCU, as well as a doctoral student. And then outside of VCU, I am an entrepreneur of 4 different businesses across the culinary industry, marketing, advertising, photography, videography, podcasting, and publishing. So I'm a little bit of a spitball of everything. So nice to meet you guys.
Awesome. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and launch the poll before we jump in. Sarah, if you want to go ahead and launch that. We're going to do a quick poll for you all before we jump into our first question.
Yes, so there are 3 different questions here. So the first one, does your organization have any paid team members, full or part-time, who are supporting your organization's marketing efforts right now? The second question is, how would you currently describe your organization's marketing, social media, and branding success? So you have a few different options there for you to kind of self-assess where you feel your organization is at right now. And then the last question is multiple choice. So you can choose multiple answers for this third question about what mediums your organization is using to market your program right now. So we just kind of want to get a sense of who's in the room with us, where everyone's at, and make sure that our guest speakers kind of have that information to help them best cater what they're going to talk about to who's in the room. Give it just another minute or so. We have 60% who have taken it so far. We're at 75%, so just a couple more seconds. Folks who want to get their final selections in. Okay, we're going to end the poll here. We're going to share. Hopefully everybody can see the results. So it looks like 57% said yes, you have a full or part-time paid staff member who is helping with your marketing efforts. 43% are saying no for that one. In terms of how folks are feeling they're currently doing with their organization's marketing, social media, and branding success, the majority said we're not doing too well. Our efforts are limited right now at 43%. And then had, I think the second highest here was we're doing okay. Our efforts are sporadic at times with 24%. And then some folks are feeling that they're doing great or pretty good too. So, and at least one person said, who has time for marketing, social media, or branding? In terms of mediums that folks are using, it looks like Facebook with 81% is definitely the majority, with Instagram following at 71%, and then LinkedIn at 62%. No one selected TikTok and nobody selected podcasting. So, all right, I hand it back over to Tamis.
Awesome. Thank you, Sarah. So my first question is going to be for you, Nick. I want to know where do you start building a brand for your organization? Like, how do you create the vision for that?
Sure thing. And I'm going to have to say this. I'm really surprised nobody's using podcasting or TikTok. And I guess to really answer the question, it's going to start with a mentor of mine once told me this. He said, in business, really with anything, you got to start with the end goal in mind. Where are you trying to go? Like, really, who are you as an organization? You have to get to the fundamental components of that. And that's what's going to help you begin to identify what is going to be the most strategic position or methods you're going to use in order to market your program. I know with the BCU Business Mentoring Program, it was handed to me about a year ago. And the first thing I had to look at was really, I don't know this program. I haven't been a part of it. I'm still getting to know VCU. So let me study and understand, what is the culture? What is it about? What does it value? What draws people to it? Who are a part of it? And that's how I really started the journey of how do I really brand this program effectively? That's going to get the results that I'm looking for down the road. Because I want to see, mentors from all across different industries helping our business students. I want to see alumni who are fully engaged and they want to donate to BCU School of Business because they really had a great time as a mentor and love serving students. I want to have students who are successful in their careers because they had a great mentor. And so you have to start with the end goal in mind, and that's what's going to help you shape really your strategy going forward in regards to your brand. So start with your vision. What's the big vision? What do you want? What is this all about? Why are we doing what we're doing? And if you have a team, it may be that you guys have to go into a room and just really brainstorm and define who are we, what are our values, our core values that really drive what we do, that help define why we do what we do and really where we're trying to go. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Beginning with the end in mind is extremely important. Jacqueline, I wonder, so if a person figures out what they're doing, where they want to go, they have their vision in place. Now, how do we create the messaging that supports that and introduces people to the brand?
Sure. So kind of piggybacking off what Nick just said, you're in that, lock in that meeting where you're all brainstorming what the mission, vision, values look like. And we've got our end goal in mind, right? So we need to develop, I suppose, about two or three top, like, what do we want people to know about our organization the most? What are those top 2 or 3 bullet points, and hammering those 2 or 3 items over and over and over again and having message discipline about that is incredibly important. So when I was approached by Alexandria Mentoring Partnership, we sat down in a room, we figured out, we have all these big goals, we have all of these amazing organizations that are a part of this partnership. And we kind of defined, like, we do this for the kids, but then we also do this for the mentors, right? It changes 2 lives. And so those, as we developed our engagement strategy for social media and press and other items, it's kind of 2-pronged in terms of both helping the kids, but then it changes the mentors' lives too. So that's how we kind of approach that. And we're staying on those 2 bullet points the entirety of Alexandria Mentoring Month, which is this month. So that's kind of where we in this particular instance develop that, but maintaining those 2 items, 2 or 3 items is really where you need to begin the basis of communicating that brand.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And we're just going to go back and forth with things. So, okay, we've got our end in mind. We've got our 2 or 3 things that we're not going to stray from. Okay, so now what? We have our brand, we have our message. What's the next step? What do we do after we have those things, Nick?
So really, this is where you have to begin thinking about, okay, now we know our vision, now we know our core message. This is when you have to begin thinking about, okay, what resources do I have at my disposal that are possibilities? And sometimes you also have to think about, okay, what have we done already? Has it worked? What results is it giving? So like, I like for my culinary business, I'll give you an example about that. I run a private chef business, but about 2 years ago, obviously a pandemic hit. And I said, okay, I need to go back to my brand a bit. What am I all about? And I said, Chef Nick Experience. I want to create culinary experiences. I want to empower people through food in different mediums, whether it's me providing the food to them or me equipping them with tools to cook good quality food and have the confidence in that. So I said, okay, I'm already using Facebook. I'm already using Instagram, but I'm mainly on Facebook. But my engagement on Facebook is not as high. What other things am I missing? Let me study other programs or other businesses, other chefs, and see what they're doing, and then ask them questions about how they're, interacting with those different resources. So it helps me just get information about all the tools I have at my disposal. And then this is where it goes back to what Jacqueline was saying, is you have to hone in, your message, that this is sort of the focal point. So let me pick and decide on the mechanisms I'm going to use that's going to help amplify that message at its greatest potential. So for me, in this scenario, I said, okay, you know what? I'm noticing there's more people on TikTok right now and Instagram, and there's a lot of video content. I'm seeing a lot of chefs doing video content. I'm a videographer and I'm a photographer. Let me put more of my energy towards posting on Instagram and TikTok. I'll still post on Facebook, but my energy is going to be, I can get more of my message across and show it because there's better engagement for the target audience I'm trying to go for on Instagram and TikTok. And so I just started producing content there. And then next thing you know, boom, things are hitting. Cookbooks are selling. So it's going to be, again, it's once you have that vision, you have that branding message. Now you have to pick the tools and identify the tools that are going to help you be able to carry that message consistently. Because we've even done that with the business mentoring program, where we said this is the year of impact. And we wanted to get our mentors and mentees excited and really to jump in on that brand identity of like, yes, we're looking at impact. And we explained what that means. We defined it. We corralled them. We said, we're a community. This is what we're doing as a team. And this is what we're chasing after. We're chasing after impact for this year. So everything that we're doing, every event, every activity, is going back to that same branding message to make sure that it's drilled in. You think why so many different companies like McDonald's is so popular, or look at Oreos, Nabisco. I think that's the company. Yes, the parent company. But it's just, again, it's about looking at those tools that you have at your disposal and focusing on the ones that are going to get the greatest potential out of your organization. Also, what makes sense for your organization overall. Because I have a lot of student staff that are helping me run the mentoring program. So social media is big, especially things like LinkedIn, because that's what they're hearing all the time. and also YouTube. It makes sense for our mentoring program. But I'm a podcaster, so I'm working on getting us into the podcasting realm because that's also becoming something that's really vital within the School of Business. But that's just what makes sense for our capacity.
That's really helpful. So I'm wondering, so you're talking about, amplifying the greatest potential that we have and leveraging these platforms. But if you're trying to expand, or if you're trying to scale your organization, what kind of content, Jacqueline, would you say is like necessary to do that?
Sure. So Nick a little bit stole my talking point. But identifying who you're trying to target is at the basis of everything. So you've got your message. If you're trying to recruit, for example, new mentors, you need to go to where they are. Like, for example, Facebook is beginning to skew older, TikTok is skewing younger. So if you're, and video content is everywhere, and is very engaging at this kind of point in the very new world, relatively new world of social media. So identifying that target audience really needs to be your base when you're choosing which channels to put your energy towards, right? About half of you have a paid staffer, half of you don't. So maybe you can only maintain 1 or 2 channels, and that's totally fine. Just make sure you're picking the right ones for your target audience. And you can also kind of take a step back. If you're engaging a lot on Facebook and you're getting great engagement from a certain age range, you can go on your backend analytics and look at those things. That's excellent. Continue tailoring your message for that identified audience. If it's not going so great, maybe, switch to Instagram, where people in their 20s and 30s are generally living right now online. So maintaining the, perspective that not everyone is going to need to hear the same message in the same place, and targeting your efforts, particularly if you have limited resources, to go to the where your target audience is. For example, when I worked in elections communications, we found that a lot of people, particularly in like midterm years, weren't voting, A, because they didn't know that there was an election, and B, because their, president seems to be like the pinnacle of politics. However, those people who didn't vote end up changing they didn't traditionally vote in midterm elections, ended up changing the outcomes of some of the elections that I was helping market for. So A, finding those audiences can be a challenge, but B, once you find them, know how to talk to them.
I actually have a follow-up to that, Jacqueline, because I'm wondering, bringing up, talking about politics and messaging around elections. So how do you stay on brand or stick to your brand message in constantly changing environments, where it may not be as popular in maybe one administration to say something as it is in another? How would we as organizations begin to really think about the content that we put out and the message that we put out when the environment changes so much?
Sure. So that goes a little bit back also to that question on message discipline. So we have our 2 or 3 things, right? But every initiative, every item that you're talking about can probably fit underneath one of those 2 things. So for example, if I run a soap Twitter, and we find out that our soap is causing skin problems for some people, but that goes under our kind of umbrella of, taking care of the people and helping you take care of yourself. How can we shift that messaging within that umbrella, within that bucket, to say, we understand that this is an issue. However, with this mission of helping people have healthy skin, I'm just making this up, with that mission of helping people have healthy skin, how do we pivot towards positive? So that pivot within those 2 or 3 things that you have already established, you can redirect attention to the positives in a way that is meaningful, but still true to those initial 2 or 3 things. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that was a great answer, actually. Okay, so how do you balance, Nick, I'm gonna have a question for you. How do you balance the different types of marketing communication, like fundraising, volunteer recruitment, to ensure that you reach the right audience? Because I know that you had a comment about TikTok and Instagram, no, TikTok and podcasts not being on the poll. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Mhm. So this is something that I'm constantly learning as one, managing my own businesses and even the branding and the marketing direction of my office as a director, as well as the mentoring program. It's one, stay in your lane. I think sometimes the easiest thing is to focus so much on what other people are doing and what's going well for other programs or things like that and say, man, I should do it exactly like they're doing because they're getting a lot of success. This is where, again, reminding yourself of like, who are we? Why are we doing what we're doing? Who are we really trying to impact and target? And let's focus on putting out content specifically for them. Um, and I think when it comes to really the balance, it's going to be the realistic. It's all about consistency when it comes to content. It's not about volume, because sometimes that's been like the perceived myth that we have to put out so much content every single day, every single second of every single minute. And that's not necessarily true. It's about consistency. Usually your audiences want to know that, hey, you're present and you're there to support them in alignment with what you've said, that your mission, your vision, your goals, what the purpose of this space, what the purpose of this program is, and really communicating what that timeline looks like. What can they expect? If you go into the podcasting world, you'll see a lot of great podcasters will tell you, we will drop an episode every Thursday at 8 a.m. CST or EST, and this is what you can expect. It's all about setting clear expectations, and that's what's going to really help you balance that those different types of communications, and really making that clear timeline of when people can expect different types of communications and where people can go. So those who rather go to find communication on Facebook or Instagram, and that's what you're using, and that's a part of your strategy, they know, okay, I'm gonna go here at this day and time to go find the messaging that you guys sent out. If you're also using, maybe like some people use newsletters. I know we use a newsletter for our mentoring program because that's our, and we tell people the first week of every single month is when you can expect a newsletter. And that's where you're gonna get all the information about what's happening this month. And so it gives all about having clarity in your strategy, clarity in your action, and communication with your target audience, and being consistent with that. And as long as that's clear, it's going to allow you to have that balance that you need. But be okay with like Jacqueline said, pivoting when you need to, because in one season, one method might be the best, and the next season it might not necessarily work. Last year, when I first got the program, we were using LinkedIn. We have a LinkedIn group for the business mentoring program. We were posting consistently. We communicated exactly when they would expect a post. We were engaging with them, but we found out our mentors aren't really in LinkedIn groups. Our students especially are not on LinkedIn groups, but they're on Instagram and TikTok all the time. So we said, okay, we're wasting a lot of our time trying to constantly post on LinkedIn. Doesn't mean that we close the group, but we're going to put our efforts more so on how can we make the newsletter, which is where we're getting the highest engagement based on the analytics, like Jacqueline had said before, because that's a lot of tools nowadays with social media have a lot of analytics that are really, really vital. And sometimes I would slow down, look at those analytics in order to speed up and provide that pivot that you need for your program to be sustainable with those marketing strategies. So I hope that helps.
Yeah, that's helpful. Jacqueline, I have a question, because I think one of the things that's coming up as I'm hearing you all talk is, for organizations, you have marketing communication, you have fundraising, you have events. Some organizations need clients. So how do you balance how much of what type of communication goes out from your org?
Sure. I think particularly with fundraising and volunteers, having a dedicated period of time that's a drive. And so like a fundraising drive, I know it sounds super like NPR, but dedicating that time. So, every January, you're going to have a fundraising drive. Every July before the school year starts, you're going to have a volunteer drive. And then again, going back to those 2 or 3 things that you established are the top bullet points. You can tailor those communications within that time period to the 2 or 3 things that you've identified, but then also have that fundraising ask. And particularly with fundraising, you do need to make an ask, and generally you need to make a dollar amount ask, and that's going to really, really help your fundraising efforts. I was also a fundraiser for a long time as well. So we can talk about that maybe at a different time. But you know, when you have limited resources, and maybe limited channels and limited people to be able to come up with that content, because content creation can be hard. But having a dedicated like time of year or a dedicated time of the week, you know, like at one point I did Flash Fridays. So how many $1 donations can I get on a Friday? So just little creative ways that kind of what Nick was saying, that people can expect, you know, to participate in these, you know, Flash Fridays or something like that, is kind of a way that I would manage that, particularly with if you only have a few channels or one person or a volunteer managing your marketing channels.
That's really, really helpful. I think I might steal the Flash Friday.
Go for it. I have a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
I have a question for the both of you. So Jacqueline, why don't we start with you since you're already off mute? But what's the difference? I didn't realize that this was a difference until we prepped, but what is the difference between communicating the brand through resources versus operating within the brand itself? And so how do you balance that and have clear boundaries between the two? And can you talk about the difference a little bit?
Sure. So I actually want to throw it to Nick first, because I think he can kind of set up how to operate within the brand, because I think that's really where somebody has to start in order before you start communicating the brand outwardly. So Nick, if you don't mind, I'm putting you on the spot.
Sure. So I'll give you, I'm an analogy person. This is just what I do. My students know this all the time. I tell them, okay, you're a person who's trying to be successful. In order to be successful, you have to tell people who you are, and you have to show people who you are. So when you think about your name and what you do, it's all tied to your brand, the parent brand, AKA you. And when I think about when you're operating within the brand, it's always the clarity of who you are as an organization, who you are as a person, and how is that reflected in your actual actions. Like if I'm saying I'm a professional chef, and literally I don't really show any cooking, how can people really believe that? If I am an entrepreneur and I say I'm really not going to go to networking events, I don't network, I don't talk to people, how can I say I'm an entrepreneur when I need people in order to help build business and make impact? So it's all about alignment to your actions. That word alignment is so vital, and it's always going back to that core essence of who you are as an organization, that core essence of who you are as a person. And especially when you're in an organization where you have 5 to 10 different people who are helping carry that brand banner. It's literally, I did this with one of our student orgs called BizStars. They were originally a program for transfer students in the School of Business, and I decided that it would, I literally said, okay, I've noticed for years this program, we've told transfer students, this is what you need, versus actually slowing down and saying, hey, what do you actually need and what do you actually want? It doesn't make sense for me, who's not a transfer student, to tell you what you should have and what you need. And so we sat down, I said, and they said that they wanted more leadership, they wanted more opportunity to lead. I'm like, I remember when I was a student and I had this opportunity to run a student organization. Maybe we could work on making this pivot. So we did that. And this past summer, we sat down with the leadership team and they were trying to figure out how do they make themselves an effective brand? How do they really pivot from the program to the student org? And so we sat down and really got them to think about who are they as an organization? And each member contributed to what that mission statement looks like. They had that actual buy-in of like, I see myself in this brand because I helped contribute on making that brand a reality. I helped contribute even if it was the or the specific word or the value or the pillar, I really see myself. It reflects who I am. So when I go out and I tell people I'm a part of this organization, they can see why, because they see me in the brand. So I hope that helps give a picture, paint a picture, and then I'll pass it on to Jacqueline to.
Yeah, so when you have that group of people that are invested in that brand, each of them has their own story as to why they invest in your brand, why they, can you tell that one of my 2 or 3 points is circling back to my 2 or 3 points? Because you have those 2 or 3 points, but then those personal stories, the reason why I put that in the mission statement is going to be the best vector for you to be able to take that to the external communication of the brand. So, you guys are all running volunteer organizations, more or less. Every single person has a reason why they signed that volunteer form. What is that person's story? How does that person's story come back to our 2 or 3 points? And how can we tell that story in a meaningful way, where that person is invested in the brand and communicating that investment outwardly?
That's really good. So we're going to go ahead and open it up for questions from you all. We have a wealth of knowledge and information here. So if you want to go ahead and either, I guess, put your hand up or put a question in the chat, we're going to open it up for that section. There are a lot of people here, so you can come off mute too, because I'm not going to be able to scroll through and see if hands are up, to be honest.
Hello? You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna try to make my question concise. I have a lot of ideas kind of swirling. You guys have given a lot of really good advice, so thank you so much for being here. So when we talk about TikTok, I actually find myself on TikTok a lot because it's just so entertaining. It draws you in. People are telling stories, and I love the platform. It can be a little overwhelming, and really my question is, how do we use that platform to reach people locally when it really is such a global platform? And maybe that goes back to our why, but maybe you can talk a little bit more about how TikTok can be a great resource to youth mentoring.
So the one thing about TikTok that is so crazy is that it's one of the very few platforms where it forces you to be very specific in your content. The ones that are the most specific and clear in what people can expect from their page are the most successful, are the quote unquote influencers per se. And so I think with a platform like TikTok is where you have your core points of what you're trying to accomplish and say, okay, we're going to focus on just one on TikTok. And the one thing with content that you produce is you have to almost look at it like a story. There's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. We know at the end, we want to say, this is our organization, this is who we represent as an organization. This is why we're talking about the content that we're talking about. And then you have a different beginning and middle that helps tell the different pieces or give something to the audience that draws them in. So like I think about like with my culinary videos, I have my logo stuff that goes on at the end of every single one of my videos. But at the beginning, it's a different recipe. And I may do like a series where I say, okay, we're gonna do the nostalgia series, where I'm gonna do different nostalgic dishes from like when I was a kid. So things like, I don't know, corned beef and hash for breakfast. I don't know why as a kid I love that, but it's still like one of my favorites. Or let's do pancakes. Who doesn't love pancakes? The other day I said, you know what? I love banana bread. I make a mean banana bread recipe that everybody has seen in my cookbooks. Let's turn that into a bread pudding and let me show you the process. This is Nick Williams. We have culinary experience. This is what you can expect from this page. And then what I started doing that's still on brand is food for thought Friday. So they know they're going to get an experience when it comes to food. But now on every Friday they can expect some kind of, because I'm a deep dude. And I'm like, okay, now you can see my face from behind the camera and you're still getting sustenance that's going to enhance your experience. So you see how I'm using this platform in different ways to stay on brand, but they're getting the one simple message. They're going to come to my page, they're going to get fed, whether visually, emotionally, or spiritually.
And maybe with some of that corned beef hash too.
No, I'm hungry after that.
Right. Ronchelle, am I saying your name right? Thank you so much for that question. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Nick, because I think a part of your question was how to hone in, particularly geographically, with your TikTok engagement. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a whole lot about the TikTok algorithms, but I think one way to perhaps help elevate within your existing community would be to have your volunteers follow you and tell their stories within TikTok so that they can share, what they're saying with their friends on TikTok or their friends on other social media, and cross-posting with other platforms would also be really helpful for you to see, like, if you cross-post your TikTok video onto Instagram, is that content still resonating there? Because Instagram, you can be a little more honed with your location and geocaching and things like that. So that would be kind of a tactic that I would try. And also, don't be afraid to try things and they not work. Just that would be something that I would try just in that particular situation.
And this is where the analytics are going to really come into play, because TikTok even has analytics. And a lot of it does depend on, for some platforms, they'll tell you that there's different types of accounts you can create. So there's like the creator oriented, there's just the regular personal, and there's the business oriented, and they have different tools that are available for each of those different styles. So really studying the platform and studying those options and really picking one that works best for you, your team, and what you guys are trying to accomplish. But it's like Jacqueline said, literally try things, learn, fail, pivot where necessary, and really just go through that cycle. Don't focus so much on like what's working for other people, because what you guys can do the same exact thing, but it may work for one, it may not work for the other. Just really focusing on how can we hone in on being the most authentic version, because really that's what drives on social media right now, is who is being their most authentic self in this space, and who really connects with us. I think if you know that your goal for your organization is that we're doing something that's really, it's an emotional journey. Focus on that one piece of how can we just produce content that allows people to sort of see that emotional journey. So if you're fundraising for maybe something like, fighting breast cancer, let's tell those stories. Storytelling is a great tool. Honestly, I think people need to use it more. I told my team in the BC School of Business that we need to do it more for some of our bigger events, because those stories haven't really explained why are we doing this kind of event? Why does this even matter? But also share those kind of events. Maybe that could be something you can also do if you're having these big events. Share the experience. Get people excited about, oh wow, y'all do this, this, and this. There's certain pages that I follow, like in Richmond, there's the Richmond Experience, and they literally go around and try different local businesses and restaurants, and they just really just walk you through. You think that you're really walking with them throughout the city of Richmond and seeing these restaurants and these businesses and going in and seeing the merchandise and everything like that. And it makes you want to go. I've literally tried so many different restaurants and gone to different, businesses and bought things because they've done such a good job of storytelling the story of Richmond through this platform. So.
That's really great. We do have a question in the chat from Catherine. To both panelists, I'm wondering about TikTok too. What if you struggle with filming content that's actually entertaining? I'm afraid that the videos are going to have 4 likes each, which is going to end up looking bad for the company. Does super low engagement ever backfire? I know you said something about try, fail, learn, pivot, try again, but could you speak to that specific question?
Well, go ahead.
Sorry. So I'm going to come back to storytelling as well, that Nick was just saying. Even if it's just one of your mentors takes a selfie video walking into their meeting with their mentor, having coffee with their mentee, like, I'm really excited to talk about X, Y, and Z with my mentee, just like as a selfie walking into a coffee shop, or as they're walking out, like, this is what I learned as a mentor from my mentee. Just be real, I think, is kind of where I'm trying to come back to. And Nick, if you want to talk more about the double-edged sword that is low engagement.
Yeah, I would say, don't worry about having the perfect video. Honestly, the more you produce content, the better it's going to just become naturally. Sometimes people think I have to have like literally all the fancy equipment. have to have a whole video studio just to produce content. You really don't. You honestly just need a cell phone. Like when I looked at my first TikTok videos, they were literally me over here like this. Okay, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and throw these beans into the pan and these onions. Now look, okay, it doesn't have to be perfect. Honestly, I've like had some like really professionally done like cooking videos that I've produced on my TikTok and my Instagram, and they have low engagement. Then I do like the simplest thing that literally has the least amount of editing, and it ends up being the most viral thing. I'm like, I don't really understand, because the algorithm changes. It's all about just really what's going to connect most with your audience. What I've also found is really thinking about length. That actually does make a difference. You have to think about the longer a video, the less likely somebody's going to sort of sit through, depending on what the context of that video is. If it really warrants somebody coming back to and watching it in full. So I often say like a smart range, depending on what kind of content you're producing. If it's really, really funny, sometimes 15 to 30 seconds is just enough time to keep people's attention, make them laugh. Often the first impression becomes the lasting impression. It's what makes people want to continue watching the video. So really thinking about what's the first thing that's going to really get people to like feel some kind of reaction, whether it's laughter from the get-go, or they're going to feel that emotional heart tug. What's going to really capture their attention? It's just like when you think about your favorite movies that that do a really great job of making you want to like sit in the movie theater, not even talk, not even hear a pin drop, just literally just be fully engaged. This is where I take notes. Again, this is why trying and failing, studying and really trying to find your groove, finding your own authentic voice in the platform that's really where we're going to get to the beauty of it. But don't worry about perfection. Just produce content that's most authentic to you. And I promise you, you will draw people that appreciate your authenticity that most resonates with them. But do think about the length of it.
And I totally get that it's disheartening, especially when you're starting a new channel, but it'll build.
Mhm.
It'll build.
I have a quick question. Should there be consideration for diversifying the content across the various platforms instead of posting the same?
Yes, absolutely. So I think kind of what I was going back to finding your audience. If people that are like 40 or over, that might be people you're recruiting to be mentors, are generally on Facebook, and they generally don't want to hear what you're saying to a 20-year-old. It can be a different message, going back to those 2 or 3 things still in that overarching umbrella. But the reason why somebody over 40 is a mentor might be something different than what somebody who's in college is seeking from being a mentor. So yes, there is absolutely something to be said for tailoring those messages. But maybe it's just a sentence tweak, or putting something in the one that's on Facebook that's not in the one on TikTok. So you don't necessarily have to recreate the wheel for the content, because content creation is so hard, especially when you're trying to maintain like steady traffic, or even if it's just weekly, that can still be hard sometimes, especially if you're the only one running everything. So they're finding those audiences, finding what works for those audiences, A/B testing with that kind of stuff, I think makes sense. But also, if you only have capacity for 1 channel or 2 channels, it doesn't absolutely have to be that way. I hope that answers your question. Nick, do you have anything to add?
I would definitely say it goes back to a point Jacqueline said a bit earlier in the conversation, of really understanding the platform and the typical audience in that platform. So TikTok is typically a bit of a younger space, but it's actually becoming very, very diverse, probably the most diverse that I've seen. Twitter, the purpose of it is really like short, sweet commentary, not necessarily a lot of pictures and videos, but just like witty words. That's Twitter. LinkedIn, it's more of the professional vibe. Like I've noticed that a lot of people don't really post things that are happening on LinkedIn. And so I started posting my culinary. I was like, I don't know if my culinary stuff, I think it feels so unprofessional. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna post it. And I realized that, I post more the photos that I take from my food photography on TikTok. I'm not on LinkedIn. Or I'll post we had some mentors shared when they went out with their mentee and they shared it with us. So we posted on our LinkedIn group, and that had so much traction because, again, it's simple. It doesn't require like sitting down and just really watching, but people are business, they're professionals. They're moving. They see a picture. Oh, I love it. And maybe put a comment and things like that. Facebook becoming a bit of an older crowd. So also pictures may work. So again, it's just understanding the platform that typically navigates towards those different social media outlets, and picking content, picking captions that will work. Wit is always a great thing. So using nostalgic, wittiness always helps, especially with Instagram, because that's what makes people want to like, oh my gosh, that's so hilarious. What some people do with photos, they'll like think about a really good song that has a really good quote, and they'll tie it to that picture that makes sense. And again, it's all about capturing that really resonating, that nostalgic connectivity with your audience and you, of like, this is why we're posting this, and we want to grab your attention. So we're going to put something that's really recognizable to you, that you hear a Drake lyric, you're going to know this is a Drake lyric. Oh man, this is a cool photo. Wow. I feel seen and heard. And a lot with our newsletter too, we even do that within our newsletters, of trying to create more engaging imagery with the headers and doing those custom designs, using witty. When we send out the newsletter, they have that subject line where it's going to draw their attention of like, I can't believe you missed ... And it gets them to want to open out of curiosity of like, wait, what did I miss? So again, wit is a really good tool that I would highly recommend putting in your pocket to help you with designing captions and adjusting to the different mediums that make sense.
If I could piggyback, I just came to my brain one project that I'm working on. And so first of all, I did not know that Alexandria had a division of archaeology. So that was a fun thing to learn about. That as I'm creating that content, I'm thinking about like an infographic video on, what to do if you find a bottle from the 1700s in your backyard. But then we can also take like a screen grab of that video and create it into our door hangers that we're going to canvas the neighborhood with. So, you can reuse what you've got to put it in different mediums, but tailoring that specific content to that audience. If that kind of piggybacks on what Nick was saying, it makes sense.
It does, and I agree with Ronchelle. This is gold. We have one more question in the chat. Do you have any advice for reaching an audience before using relevant hashtags? Beyond using relevant hashtags, when you have a budget for boosting posts? When you typically only reach 10 to 20 people with your posts on any of your platforms, it can feel disheartening to spend time on them. Do you have any advice?
So when you have money to boost posts, or go through, I've worked a lot in Facebook Ad Manager, you can like geofence it. So if you're looking to target a certain age demographic, race, ethnicity demographic, gender demographic, location, you can tailor all of those within particularly Facebook, and I believe in Twitter, and definitely Instagram as well, to people who either you can do a lookalike audience, so the people who are already engaging with your posts. How old are those people? Where do those people live? And Facebook will kind of like algorithmically find those people and show them your content. And you can also do it kind of manually on the other side. If you're trying to reach a different audience than those 10 or 20 people that are already always engaging with your content. So that's when you have no budget for boosting posts. Okay. So you have volunteers in your organization, right? Ask them to help not only with the creation of the content, but share that content on their own channels. I think that's one very good way to not only continue that investment of that volunteer in the brand that they helped create, but then communicate their story within that brand externally to their own networks. And maybe you'll have a friend of a friend who becomes a volunteer and starts engaging with you there. So that would be my best advice. Nick, do you have anything else you would add?
Tagging, honestly, especially when you're doing something that's related to somebody or something or a place, tag. I literally, like, if you look at when people follow me on social media and they see, and I post something, let's say earlier in the summer, Mr. P. Diddy had just released his new Ciroc. And I said, and he was doing the Ciroc challenge. I'm like, okay, you know what? This is my prime time. I love giving reviews for stuff. So I did his Ciroc challenge where I had the Hennessy and the Ciroc and gave my honest review. And I tagged him. I tagged every one of his pages, Bad Boys. I did all the hashtags I could think of. And he actually reposted the video. And that had ended up having more views than I just had on my own. So tagging people so that it gets linked to them. Even with all my pages, when I post something, I have like 4 different social media Instagrams for my different businesses. So if it's something related to like me publishing a cookbook, I'm tagging my videography business. I'm tagging my publishing company so that I can then repost them naturally onto those pages. And it doubles the efforts, it doubles the number of views for the audiences that those are attracting. So tagging is going to be your bread and butter. Especially if you have a guest speaker, like when Mentor VA posted this on their social media. Well, they hadn't posted it yet. And I said, oh, I'm so excited. I got to tell my network what's about to happen. They should join in. And so I posted on my Instagram story and I tagged them and then they reposted it. And that just amplified the range in which we're letting people know, hey, this is happening. And they're like, oh, wow, this is so cool. So again, use tagging. Don't be afraid to tag people, tag places, tag things. I tag businesses. I'll tag locations because you can actually, especially in Instagram and Facebook, there's like a little location icon. You can actually put the location in. So when I was in Cabo with my family this past December, I was doing all the videography stuff for my uncle's 50th birthday. And I posted all the video content and tagged Cabo, the Hard Rock Cafe resort, and they're reposting on their story and everything like that. So I'm having people internationally now looking at my page, which is crazy. But this is why tagging is so vital. You don't know everybody, but if you tag people, they can help share you with everybody, if that makes sense. But also maybe doing like a tagging challenge or doing a challenge. So if you're doing like a campaign where you're raising money, maybe create a unique hashtag and encourage people who are participating in the campaign to share that you donated and do hashtag spend $1, make an impact. That one's for free. Because we did that with my high school when we were doing a Saints Fund to really do a competition between the classes to see which class could raise the most money. And we created a unique hashtag class of 2010 rules. And it just helps create that kind of momentum. I call it the snowball effect. So create a snowball for yourself by tagging and really maximizing all those different pieces.
And as just kind of a additional point, when you tag someone, the people that follow that person are also likely to see that post.
Yes.
Yeah. Go.
Also on Instagram, there's a feature called Collaborator. I would let people know, because some people don't really check their messages, but if you have somebody that was a part of an event or something like that and you want them as a collaborator, let them know. You can set them as a collaborator. And when they accept it on Instagram, it automatically shares that post on their feed. So again, it's looking at all the tools that are available in that social media platform.
Awesome. Thank you.
I also just came up with an idea that I want someone to use, but like a tag you're it. So if you have a post that like, hey, tag you're it, you have to be a mentor. Who else like here can tag someone in their network?
I'm writing that one down.
Yeah, somebody use it. Everyone uses it. I don't care.
That is a really good idea. Thank you all so much. This has been just amazing. At this point, I'm going to pass it over to Emma Rush, who handles our PR and communications, who likely retweeted or reposted what you all posted, Nick. And so I'm going to pass it to Emma, and then Sarah will close us out. But thank you all so much.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about how you guys could potentially be capacity building. So in my role, I'm an AmeriCorps Vista, so I signed on for a year, and the goal is to build capacity and make it sustainable. So like Jacqueline was saying, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And when you have someone in a position, even if it's temporary, they can be trying different things and creating like an outline of what you're going to be doing. So even when your capacity decreases, you're going to have some of that material there moving forward to build upon with the lower capacity. And with that, I'll send it over to Sarah.
Thanks, Emma. Yeah, Emma's very humble. So she has been serving with us for several months now, and has, if you see any of our social media channels, if you see our e-blasts, I mean, we're kind of on fire right now, and that's totally Emma. She's taken all of that work to the next level. So we do have an AmeriCorps Vista program at Venture Virginia. So if any of you were like, oh man, I could really use somebody like Emma in my organization to help build our capacity for marketing and social media and branding and all that, just know that that's something that we could potentially discuss with you as a potential opportunity in the future. And actually, Cindy Montalvo on this call is our AmeriCorps program supervisor. So she would be happy to talk to you about the different opportunities and ways that that program might be able to benefit you. So I am going to wrap up here with, there's a survey link in the chat. So please let us know how this first session of 2023 went for you. And I'm going to briefly share just a couple of announcements, and then we're going to vote on the topic for next month. So please hang with us for the last couple of minutes here. So Friday is the last day to register for Capitol Hill Day. So this is your opportunity to join us, be an advocate for mentoring, help increase funding and support from the federal government for mentoring programs and mentoring services. So it's an in-person opportunity in Washington, D.C. For the 24th and 25th of January. So you have to register by this Friday in order to participate. And that is part of and kicks off the National Mentoring Summit. So in Washington, D.C., but also there's a virtual option to join the National Mentoring Summit this year from January 25th to the 27th. There's over 75 workshops happening. So don't forget to build that into your plans for National Mentoring Month if you haven't yet. It's going to be a really great, it's the first time we're going to be back in person since before the pandemic. So we're really excited. We do also, for National Mentoring Month, have a really exciting opportunity coming up. So if y'all haven't heard, there's a new supplement to the Elements of Effective Practice for Mentoring that came out recently for critical mentoring. So to me, Spencer Helms is going to be leading folks on January 17th for a session on what is the supplement, how can your program utilize this new resource to enhance the work that your program is doing, or create kind of a new ways that your program can engage with young people and communities from a critical mentoring perspective. So please join us for that session that's coming up. And then there are a couple other great opportunities happening this month. There's another new supplement to the Elements of Effective Practice for Mentoring for working with youth with disabilities. So Mentor's hosting an introductory session to kick off that resource on the 12th. So that's tomorrow. So you can join that and learn all about that new resource. And then there is going to be a national webinar that actually Emma Rush from Mentor Virginia is going to be a speaker on, about celebrating and elevating, what everyone's doing in the network for National Mentoring Month. So that's going to be another conversation that's going to hit on events and marketing and branding and social media and all of that, but specifically about National Mentoring Month. So if you can join, that one is on Thursday, January 19th. So some really exciting events for National Mentoring Month coming up. And then just to shout out that, one of the things we advocate for at Capitol Hill Day is our no-cost technical assistance program. If you haven't engaged with this, we have funding from the Office of Juvenile Justice, and we can work with programs to build out, we can help you build out social media, marketing plans, your branding, all of that kind of stuff. Actually, one of our Tammy Mobley couldn't be with us today, but that's she loves building that kind of stuff with programs. So that's something that you can access at no cost to be able to kind of build out different elements of your program. And then lastly, let's launch our poll here. I know we're running a little bit late today, so I'm sorry y'all that we're running just a little bit behind, but if you can stay with us for another minute here, what topic would you like to discuss for February's coffee hour? We could bring back Nick and Jacqueline for Marketing, Social Media, and Branding Part 2 if y'all want to dive deeper into this topic. Recruiting Black Men as Mentors Part 2. We did Part 1 earlier on in 2022. So if you want to have a deeper dive into that conversation, and then the other one is around thinking about the criminalization of Black youth and how mentoring programs can create identity affirming spaces for those young people. And then the second question here is, we are considering launching some kind of small cohorts of learners to dive deeper into some of these community coffee hour topics that we've had over the last few years of hosting these. So if you might be interested in that, we would love to to kind of get a sense of if folks would be interested in doing that kind of thing. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the poll because we are definitely short on time here. We've got just shy of 80%. So it looks like we want to have Nick and Jacqueline back. So that's exciting. So that's the winning topic for next month. And we thank you for the information on the cohort of learners. Looks like some folks are wanting some more information, but some folks are also interested. So thank you so much, Nick and Jacqueline, for joining us, and everybody for joining this initial kind of kickoff to our 2023 coffee hour series. We hope to see you back here next month, and we will kind of dive deeper into some of these topics.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you all.
Thank you, y'all. Great to meet everybody.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone.